Please, can you find our son? The couple sitting across from Melanie Carmody looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Red-rimmed eyes pleaded with her, their exhaustion almost tangible. They weren't the type she usually dealt with, not the high-maintenance divorcees or the bitter corporate climbers. Just an ordinary couple, desperate for help. Mel took a slow, deliberate breath, resisting the urge to open her desk drawer and grab her vape. She'd kicked cigarettes years ago, but the custom wolfsbane blend in her vape pen still called to her when stress hit. "Please," the woman whispered, her voice cracking. "Can you find our son?" Mel studied the photograph on her desk. A smiling teenager stared back at her, his dark eyes full of mischief and life. 16, according to the file. Gone for 4 days. "Tell me about him," Mel prompted, folding her hands over the file. Her voice was calm, professional, but there was a glint in her silver eyes, a predator's edge honed from 15 years as a private investigator and a lifetime of secrets. The mother spoke first, her words spilling out in a messy torrent. "He's a good boy. A little rebellious, sure, but never anything serious. He's been skipping school lately, locking himself in his room, but he's never run away before." Mel nodded, jotting down notes. "What about his friends? Anyone he's been spending time with?" The father shifted uncomfortably. "We've met some of their parents at school events. They seemed normal enough. No criminal records, if that's what you're asking." Another note. "And when he skips school, any idea where he goes?" Before the mother could answer, Mel's secretary, barely out of high school himself, poked his head into the office. "Boss, you've got to call on line 1. I'm with clients," Mel snapped. "It's your ex-husband, the human one." Her jaw tightened. "Which one?" The boy's face turned crimson. "The one with the kid?" Mel sighed, muttering an apology to her clients as she picked up the receiver. "What did she do now?" she asked, skipping pleasantries. "Tried to pull Derek out of school," Bill's familiar, gravelly voice growled. "He's asking to stay with you for a bit. Doesn't trust her not to show up." "Fine," Mel said. "Tell him to follow the rules." The call ended, and she turned back to the grieving parents. "I'll take the case." By the time Mel got home that evening, Derek was already sprawled on her couch, fast asleep. The scent of cleaning supplies lingered in the air. Her immaculate kitchen was his work. She bet money he'd scrubbed every corner in frustration. Dinner was ready when he woke, his mop of dark hair disheveled. "Hey, Aunt Mel," he mumbled, sliding into the chair opposite her. "Hey, kid, heard about your mom." Derek rolled his eyes. "Dad called you?" "Of course." They ate in silence for a while before Mel leaned back, studying him. "There's a kid missing from your school. Carlos. Know him?" Derek's fork paused midair. "Yeah, kinda. We've hung out a few times. Mostly at the old park." Mel stiffened. The old park wasn't just abandoned, it was cursed. A breeding ground for trouble, the kind that lurked in shadows and fed on innocence. "What do you do there?" she asked, her voice low. Derek hesitated. "Promise not to tell Dad?" "Depends on how stupid it is. There's this group, older kids. They bring beer and cigarettes since Mason lost his fake ID. They're weird, though. Always watching us, listening." Mel's blood ran cold. "Derek," she said slowly, "that's vamp territory. You're drinking with vampires." His face turned ashen. "Carlos, do you think?" "I don't think anything yet. But you're going back to your dad tonight." The sun dipped below the mountains as Mel parked near the decrepit remains of the old park. Vines and rust consumed what had once been a lively playground. Now it was a graveyard for memories, and possibly worse. Mel armed herself with wooden stakes, vials of holy water, and a silver blade tucked into her boot. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something sweeter, blood. She followed the trail to a crumbling restroom, its door hanging off one hinge. Inside, the smell hit her like a punch to the gut. mold, urine, and death. A dark hole gaped in the far corner, leading down into the earth. Mel descended without hesitation, her werewolf senses guiding her in the suffocating blackness. The cavern she entered was a grotesque parody of a home. Mattresses lined the walls, stained with old blood. Containers held surgical tools and chilled blood bags. And there, chained to the wall, was Carlos. He was alive, but barely. His clothes were filthy, his skin pale and clammy. Mel's sharp ears caught the faint sound of movement above. The vamps were returning. She broke the chains, throwing the boy over her shoulder. By the time she reached her car, she could feel them closing in, their screeches piercing the night. She threw Carlos into the back seat, gunning the engine just as pale faces emerged from the shadows. Fangs flashed in her rearview mirror, and one vamp leapt onto the hood, clawing at the windshield. Mel slammed the brakes, sending it flying into the road before flooring the gas. She didn't stop until the city lights came into view. Carlos stirred in the back seat, groaning softly. Mel's hands tightened on the wheel. How was she going to explain this to his parents? And worse, how was she going to make sure those vamps didn't come looking for her next?